All right, we are recording, so let's get started. Let me see.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Welcome to the Code Rad Show. Joining me today is artist Ellen Rosenholtz, who's going to talk about how technology, family, and life in general affect the creative process. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, this is great.
Our first attempt to do this was disrupted by a tall ship. I would love to hear. I'm a big fan of Master and Commander. I would love to hear a little bit about that. Is it your son that works on the tall ship?
So we both do. We've homeschooled our kids. Actually, my son has been homeschooled all the way along, and he just got his GED. And my daughter decided to enter 7th grade. And we never really followed any curriculum. And on Facebook, I saw a advertisement for an open house for this tall ship in Wilmington called the Kalmar Nickel. And so my son has like a strong interest in historic boats and steam trains and combustion engines, things of that nature. He's really mechanical. So I was like, well, let's go check it out. And it's just been this amazing program. So from January, I want to say to April, we took a course on learning how to sail and where the belay points are, how to operate the in tandem with your other crew members. And then after that, we've been going out and sailing on day trips down the Christiana River. And now he is sailing for 3 weeks. They're going to a tall ship festival in Norfolk and then in Yorktown, and then he'll be returning to Wilmington.
That sounds amazing. It sounds like a real holistic learning experience. The different skills that would be involved in learning how to run a tall ship like that. I mean, it's physical. It's about learning about cooperation, the technical aspect of it. Tying knots, I guess, is that a big part of it?
Oh yeah, tying knots. and it's I am so impressed with these this organization because it can be dangerous. I mean, you are on a ship and there's no rails and you could easily hurt yourself or somebody else. And they are the most gentle educators. Like if you make a mistake, they correct you, but they're very, very kind about it. And they are really interested in having as many volunteers feel confident as they can. Also, the age range for this boat, it's like 15 to, I would say, 75, 80.
Wow.
It's mostly retired folk who are operating the ship because that's who has the availability to do it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm a school teacher. My summer vacation is about to start in about 2 weeks. I wonder if they have a program over the summer.
I don't know. It's called the Kalmar Nickel. I know you can go to their website and they have all sorts of different programs. So
yeah, that sounds like an amazing challenge. Something that would just be a fantastic learning experience. I think about summer camp when I was a little kid, when we did all this stuff out in the wilderness, the camping, the learning how to build fires, maybe learning to build structures and all this stuff that you learn at summer camp. And that has that's not like a major component of everyday modern life. And to get to do something like that, is climbing up the mast and on the
Yep.
sails and stuff, is that a part of it?
That for him it is. I have a
Yeah.
bum shoulder, so I do not participate in that. But like, yeah, he had to take a strength test to be able to do it. And first he was they could only go so first he could only go so far up to the fighting tops. Then he took another strength test, and now he's a top climber, so he can go beyond the fighting tops. So yeah,
Yeah.
he's furling, he sails, he's unfurling sails, he's lashing bonnets. I'm like, okay.
Our mutual friend Alex has a movie club, and the movie we watched this month, Invention for Destruction, has some scenes on these old boats with the crew climbing up the mast and hanging from the crossbars, the sails. I'm not crazy about heights myself, but it's amazing to think people did this as they're living under extreme and not, ideal conditions either.
Right.
Weather, maybe
And
going to
he's
battle with
lashed
another
in with
boat.
harnesses. Like, I'm
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
back
yeah.
in the day, there was no harness for.
I doubt it. Yeah. Incredible. So, and so sounds like it sort of kind of grew out of your homeschooling philosophy of, and so would you like to go into that a bit? I mean, first of all, why? What was your thought process in thinking that you wanted to homeschool your children?
Well, when we started homeschooling Ferdinand, we had gone to some Board of Ed meetings, and they were just talking about computers as this magic, like they were going to have one computer teacher, and they would teach like 8 classes in Spanish, and like, they were like, this is incredible access. And I was like, this sounds like cost saving, and this sounds like, sitting my kid in front of a computer all day, and I didn't really want that. And he's a much more active, hands-on kid. He wasn't going
Yeah.
to, and I wasn't interested in full day kindergarten. And so I was just like, how hard could it be to do kindergarten? You just go out and play. And then that's where it started. And then, you got to like first grade and second grade, and we just eventually, like, we saw this divergence in what he was able to do and what the kids in school were able to do. So we
Really?
got to this point where, like, well, they were reading before he was reading. We had been to a homeschool talk during our research phase of this, and they were saying that if you just read to your kids by the age of 9, they will just start putting those cues together for reading. Like, as long as you're like reading to them, but you don't have to be forcing them to try and read.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't remember what's 9, like 4th grade. So, these kids are reading like 2nd grade, 3rd, and you're like, wait, my kid's not reading. What? Like, you think like, you really start questioning, is this right? Do I stay the course? How do I do this? And 2 weeks before he turned 9, he went from a couple simple books to Harry Potter. Like, what those people said really worked. And then with our daughter, it worked exactly the same way. And I still questioned it. Like, I was still like, she's not reading. Is it?
Yeah. So do you think it was like a developmental issue? They got to a point where they were ready to start reading, and they
just like, without forcing it, without making without making it complicated, without making it like a chore. They just were able to decode what they needed to decode to be able to read. And then they went from there.
Right.
Yeah.
And homeschooling, I feel like, has been a pretty hot topic the last few years. I mean, everyone was getting homeschooled for a year or so back around 2020, 2021. So that was a big issue. That was a different kind of homeschooling. That was a lot of screen time, which I think you've already expressed you were concerned about, the idea of putting students in front of computers and depending on that for a lot of their education. As a school teacher in the Philadelphia school district, I can attest that there seems to be no budget restrictions when it comes to technology. We are always getting new smart boards. All the students have Chromebooks,
Right.
and there's all kinds of online interventions, reading and math programs that students do. And so you wanted a more like a more traditional human interaction sort of model for education.
Yeah, I guess if we had the ability to afford Montessori, we probably would have gone to a
Yeah.
Montessori school, but we didn't really have those funds. So, and also I don't know, they could learn to do what they needed to do in other ways than sitting with a book and just sort of developing skills. Well, there was we did not do this class, and I was like begging my daughter to like not go to school and to take this like scuba diving class. Like you could learn to scuba dive and learn math at the same time,
Oh, fantastic.
like, yeah, like, so there's all these like more holistic, like it fits into the real world approaches, like place-based, I think they often call it, education.
Yeah.
Where like, I love, like, there was a program I heard of in Philadelphia where they were buying container cars and like they make the restaurants out of.
Yeah.
And then they were like refurbishing them and then selling them as like their school program. So they were learning entrepreneurship, they were learning design, they were learning all sorts of things. And like it was just a very hands-on approach to doing it. And they were building other skills at the same time. And I just love that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed what is this program where they're doing this?
I am trying to remember. It was a program in West Philadelphia, and I cannot remember the name of the program, but I was just reading about it the other day, and I was just like, that's a beautiful way of, teaching skills and, building confidence in going out into a real world scenario and developing relationships within the world that's not your traditional schooling.
Definitely. Yeah. All these, these new methods, which are kind of non-traditional, but in some ways they're very traditional. These methods of education are very interesting, and they seem to be making a comeback.
Yeah.
And I've heard talk of parents getting together and doing homeschooling in a group, kids from different families coming together to do a classroom. But it sounds like that's not what you're doing.
Some of that. I mean,
really?
Like, over the years, things ebbed and flowed and changed. So we did have a co-op group for a little while. We would do projects like, oh my gosh, what is that park called? Palmyra Cove. We would do like a seining project or a trash cleanup project where they would map out like an area of land and figure out how much trash was being dumped into that area and what types of material it was. And then the park would use that material for their research. So we definitely did a bunch of, COVID really kind of stopped our like co-op kind of time. And then I think that's really when my daughter was like, I'm done. I'm going to school. And my son started taking some courses at community college. And then we would do projects together.
And And were you able to construct your education program around your student or your children's interests?
Well, definitely. I mean, Ferdinand's interest is sailing. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's certainly, and history. And so, yeah, I mean, that was the plan. Some years it works better than, it's never consistent. Some years worked better than others,
Right, right. And
But he passed his GED, so we successfully made it through high school.
yeah, yeah, that's a great accomplishment. And so that would you consider homeschooling a full-time job for you?
Yeah, it definitely. Well, in the beginning, when they're littler,
Yeah.
and then as they got older, I had more time to myself. But yeah, when they're young, it's definitely full time, and then it's this interesting transition to like, what do I do now? Like, my time is shifting. Yeah.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
you mentioned your daughter when she entered seventh grade, she wanted to go to middle school, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. So
And
she's in the Collingswood public school system right now,
and
and she'll
how?
be graduating 8th grade, and she loves it. Like, love, there's so much I could not provide. They are two very different human beings.
Yeah.
She likes the people, she likes the energy, she likes middle school drama. She likes, I mean, and when drama, I mean the drama club and the middle school drama,
For
like,
sure.
all sorts of drama.
Yeah.
She thrives in all of that.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, some kids thrive in the school environment. I didn't myself, but it's you as a teacher, you see the full range of experiences of kids who love it, just thrive in that environment. Kids who need a little extra help, a little extra boost because they're not that comfortable or happy or whatever in that sort of situation with all those other kids and
Yeah.
sitting at a desk all day. There's all different kinds of modes of education and socialization and everything.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was absolutely one of the things was that we were like, we wanted our kids to make the decision for themselves. I didn't want to be like, you have to homeschool and I've decided this as your tract. And so when she made the choice, we were like trepidatious, but in the end it was the right fit for her.
And so so maybe now we can talk a little bit about your artwork, your creative
Sure.
process. How long have you been an artist?
I think I was not in high school. And then in college, had to pick a major, and I was like, well, I like watching movies, so maybe I'll like making movies.
Yeah.
So I went to Temple and I was in RTF for a little while. And then I was like, well, I want to control one frame of and not whatever 60 frames, I think it is. So I switched over to the now defunct University of the Arts. It was PCA at the time.
Oh, right. They just closed, right?
They just closed.
I saw that in the news. Yeah.
So I went to PCA for photography, and then eventually I was there at this like technology again. I was at this like weird transition point where we were using traditional darkroom techniques.
Yeah.
And then everything went over to computers. And I just did not. And at the time, it was very pricey. And I didn't have the money or the skill to transition over to the technical end.
Yeah.
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 So,
I have a friend who I think majored in desktop publishing in the 90s. And so when everything moved to the internet, desktop publishing stopped being a thing. So that was a degree he couldn't do anything with.
Yeah. Well, that's basically it. Yeah. It was like this whole transitional moment, and who knew that was going to happen. So I started drawing and painting then after photography, because you could do it at your kitchen table. It's,
Yeah.
you don't need special skills, or well, you don't need special tools or techniques to do it. So I was
Yeah.
able to, like, do things at home.
Yeah. It is nice when you can have control of the media. You can just sit down and create and do your thing without, like, say, in case of a YouTube channel, pestering people to come on your show. You can just sit down when you're ready to do it. Create your art, write a story, whatever the case
Yeah,
may
whatever
be.
it is.
And
And
so, obviously, starting a family would have affected this process.
so I started pretty late. I was like, how old was I? I was almost 40 when I had my first kid. I was 39, I guess. So we had our children a little bit later in life. I had gone to grad school. I was working. I was not working. Sometimes I was working in the art field. I worked for the Painted Bride as the director of programs. I was the director of the Lancaster Museum of Art. I wrote art criticism in the weekly papers for a while. I worked for as a teacher in some after-school programs. So I had a mixture of jobs, and then I had our son, and then I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay home now.
Sure.
And like, it was really interesting because I had to slow down. Like, all of a sudden this young person is like, can spend hours just, pulling apart a leaf, or, doing it's like the beauty of the slowness of whatever he was doing. And like, so then I started seeing things I'd never saw before, like insects and, patterns. And I think, and that was really influential for me.
Yeah. And the natural world is the main focus of your artwork, or at least currently, right?
Yeah, it's transitioning. I think there's a little bit of a transition going on right now. But yeah, for the most part, yeah, that I've been focusing on native, invasive, and extinct species of New Jersey for some time.
Yeah, I saw you have a painting of an extinct parakeet, I believe, North Carolina.
Oh, the Carolina parakeet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys are unbelievable. It's just the saddest story, because if one got injured and went to the ground, the flock would just flock to them. Like, they would not leave, and then they got decimated, and most of their feathers were used for women's hats and.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I was when you talked about how the whole flock would go to the ground, I think about stories I hear. I don't know too much about the the details or anything, but supposedly domestic cats are responsible for birds going extinct. And it sounds like that would be a good opportunity for cats to go to town if a whole flock of parakeets were on the ground.
Yeah, and they were the only North American parakeet. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No more. I do know that there's these flock of parakeets in North Jersey that were like escaped parakeets.
Yeah.
That now live, pretty happily in this one town in North Jersey. But yeah, it's a real shame what we do, like just the decimation of a species for fashion.
For sure. Yeah. Went on vacation to Tampa, Florida, a few years ago, and there was a small flock of parrots or parakeets, I'm not sure, who lived in the neighborhood. It was the coolest thing. It was just a gang of green birds would fly overhead, or they might be sitting in a tree overhead looking at you, and you're sitting in the park. It's pretty cool when you have
Yeah, these like just flashes of color going
Yeah.
through. But yeah, I mean, I always see it like the Orioles and they're bright yellow. You're like, ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw an oriole out in the out in nature yesterday. They are very cool looking. He's flying straight towards me with the orange on the shoulders.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah, it's really neat. So let's see. I queued up one of your paintings. So let me see if I get it. Let's see. Present. Let's see how this goes. All right, let me see. So I think this is another bird. This is a bald eagle.
Yep. So those are bald eagles, and at one point they nearly went extinct in the 1970s due to DDT,
Mm,
which would make their eggs really soft.
right.
Um, but they're really a success story right now in that every county in New Jersey has a nesting pair of bald eagles right now.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and they
Uh,
have really come back. They've really come back as a species. Now they are facing like other problems. They're eating things that they shouldn't be eating because they're in other birds or species and choking because of that. But
mm.
yeah, as a species, we really were able to like bring them back as a from the brink of extinction.
Yeah, I feel like within my lifetime, the habitat of bald eagles was very restricted to small areas. I'm quite surprised to find out that they live in New Jersey now.
Oh yeah, they're not. I mean, I don't have the complete fact, but they're pretty much in many places now, and it's kind of cool because I can see them flying around. Like sometimes I'll just drive down the highway and you'll be like, "There's a bald eagle."
Cool. Yeah, yeah, that's always exciting when you're driving on a highway and you see a hawk or an eagle or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Do you live in a rural area?
No, I live in Collingswood, New Jersey.
Oh,
Just
okay.
yeah,
I was just there yesterday.
yeah.
Um, Another theme I notice in your artwork, aside from the from nature, is there's often like a very symmetrical aspect to your paintings.
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of patterning, I guess,
Yeah.
within them, and a lot of you know, I think it comes from a bunch of different places, but like some of it is like in India they would create these kind of mandala figures outside of their home in flour or other food material so that ants and other um, creatures would eat that outside the house and not come into the house, which
Wow.
I always thought was a really fascinating way of controlling
Hmm.
household infestations. I was like, and so they're in these just beautiful, elaborate designs. That
Sure, sure.
and then another part of it is like I had been watching these videos of the earth, so it's sort of a reference, so the earth spins and then it spins around the planet, so you get like this weird helix kind of shape when you look at all of the, if you could make lines around all of the swirling. And so a lot of the patterning is also a reference to the movement of the planet. I don't know that that all comes through at all, but that's where I think somewhat stems.
For, for sure, it informs the creative process. You have
Right.
these thoughts going on as you're creating your artwork, and yeah, it's probably not going to be obvious to the casual observer, but that's all a part of the process and goes into making the finished product, right?
Right.
Oh, that's I'm a little nervous with the technological side of this, but let me see if I can get another um, uh, art piece of your artwork, and that was fairly painless. It looks like those are horseshoe crabs.
Yep, those are horseshoe crabs and red knots. So there's this symbiotic relationship between the horseshoe crab and the red knot. The red knot flies from the Arctic down to South America. And then the horseshoe crabs, I think, mate basically in May, and they will lay hundreds of thousands of eggs.
Yeah.
The red knots somehow instinctively know that, to land, mostly in the Delaware basin and eat them, and that gives them enough energy to continue their journey. And so there's a lot of discussion about the decline of the horseshoe crabs and the red knots. And the horseshoe crab is used, their blood, there's some companies can collect it, and their blood is used for biomedical purposes. I think it's like, for vaccination purposes. And so there's a lot of debate on people think too many of the horseshoe crabs are being extracted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I think I had heard something about that. But yeah, so horseshoe crabs, I guess, are not considered endangered or anything yet. Is that true? Or
it seems to be, it's not endangered, but there seems to be debatable whether their numbers are decreasing.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I think about it, seemed like as a kid, I would see horseshoe crabs all the time. See their shell on the beach, and I can't remember the last time I saw that. That just might be me not going to the beach as often as I used to. And
seen some recently.
Yeah. And so you always hear that horseshoe crabs are one of the oldest species, and that they've been around for millions and millions of years.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. They're really cool.
And they're not really crabs, right?
I think they're I want to say they're in the lobster family, crustacean family, but do not, don't.
Sure. So, and is your website your primary way of promoting your artwork, or?
I have that, and I have an Instagram account, which mostly is the Instagram account is what I'm doing right now. You want to see what I'm working on and how a painting evolves. The Instagram account, which is just my name, Ellen Rosenholtz, is where to go. And the website, I have not updated in quite some time.
Okay.
I really need to get on that. And I was trying to write some blog posts about the paintings that I was doing in conjunction with the paintings. And I really need to get back to doing that.
Yeah, it makes sense that Instagram would be maybe the primary social media artists use. Is that true, or?
It's the one I use. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
There's so many. I don't. Technology for me is the path of least resistance.
Yeah. I mean, are you talking about using technology to promote your?
Yeah,
artwork?
I really need somebody else that does that. I just want to make the art. I don't want to do the promotion. That is where I often fail. That is such a huge, job. It's a second job. You're I want to paint. I don't want to do the whole social media part of it, but you don't have a choice anymore, right? It's part of the adventure. You have to do it.
Of course. Talking is not one of my favorite things to do, but I am here having a YouTube channel because when I came out with my comic book and really got involved in the independent comic book scene and interacting, I realized the people whose comic books are selling the most are the people who are grinding away on YouTube every day.
Yeah.
They're on Twitter a lot, and I can do Twitter, but what really seems to drive sales is getting on YouTube and talking, live streams all the time. And I envy the people who just seem to thrive doing that, who love going on. They constantly seeking out people to talk to, people to come on their show, other shows to go on. So yeah, it would be nice just to write and draw and do what you feel like doing. But if you want to, if you want to get your work out there, you've got to promote.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so no matter what you feel like internal, you're like, all right, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. But like we said, working on a tall ship is a whole new experience, learning different things, going on YouTube, meeting new people, learning about new experiences, learning how to have a conversation on the internet. That's an important skill too. And I think just hopefully grow as people by doing stuff like this, taking time away from our art to go outside of our comfort zone.
Absolutely. Always challenge yourself.
Yeah, you got to seek out challenges. If you're not scared by what your plans are, then you're probably not planning big enough, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, yeah, thank you, Ellen. So, if you have anything else you wanted to talk about,
I'm okay. I don't know.
Well, thank you for coming on. I
thank
greatly
you.
appreciate it, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.